is aware of this. Okay, recording. Quick update on the rail yards master plan, which the board approved at our last meeting. That is on the council's agenda for Monday, and that will be final action by the council on Monday for that that master plan update. You know, where we took the old Samatar master plan and made it something that can go forward into the future without confusion. That's just a little notation. And then we also, as an informational item, because I'm going to be leaving, I thought it was important that we clarify some things on the original advisory board resolution that created this board. And as you know, the neighborhood representatives are an important part of that. The elected representatives have been very important. Representative Garcia and Senator Chisipino have been invaluable. Prior to that, Rick Mira, who's now joined us here, was a great asset to the board. And we want all that to continue. What's never been really clear, and it's sort of been de facto, is that I've chaired the board. And I've asked from time to time, does anybody object? You know, it's a fairly small board, and that was kind of the easy way to do it, is to say that the district counselor from the district that represents the board, as with you electeds who are on here, who represent the rail yards site. And so what we did was we updated just slightly, also because of the state redistricting of Senator Chisipino's district, to clarify how that is going to transition as we go forward. And then the last remaining thing is just to clarify that the counselor from the district will be the chair. And then if somebody wants to change that, they could always change that in the future, but to just have that continuity going forward. It's like Lawrence is here now. Welcome, Lawrence.
Good morning, Councilor. Thank you. We're having a little challenge with the webinar, but we figured it out. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here. We're going to try to keep this meeting within this hour that we said we would do. And we've invited Rick Mira in as an ex officio member. That's another thing we clarified in the Rail Yards Board resolution. And that's being introduced, I believe. And I think we sent that resolution to you as well for informational purposes, so you can see what it looks like. But fairly small tweaks to the original enabling resolution that was when we created this board way back when. So we do have a quorum now. I will ask for, I think we've got, this is our present voting membership plus Rick. And then I'll move approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Senator. And all those in favor say yes. Raise your hand.
Yes.
Yes.
Thumbs up, whatever you like. Then also I want to call for approval of the minutes from April 5th, our last meeting. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Second from
Dorothy Chavez.
Dorothy. Thank you. And all those in favor, thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So yeah, I was just giving a little update on informational items, but as I said, the master plan, if all goes well, will be approved on Monday by the city council. We wanted to also, do we have an action item, Nathan, that we will require a vote on, or are we just doing these updates?
Counselor,
As of right now, we didn't set a action item. We just had them as updates.
Okay. So we do have an informational item, and Lawrence and I spoke briefly about this, about markets at the rail yards. And it's something we've talked about frequently over the years, and how markets fit in, and who has a place there. And we've always technically called the rail yards market an interim use that we have on the site. The administration has an update. The mayor made some announcements with regard to the rail yards market, and so I'm going to ask CAO Rael to just give an update to the board on that.
Good morning, everyone. And it's good to see you, Councilor Benton. It's been about a month. So nice to have you back in the saddle, so to speak. And Senator Ortiz-Pino and Representative Garcia, thanks as always for your vigilant support of our efforts here on the rail yards, and of course Dorothy and the community members, Jay and others. It's really good to see that this board has hung in there with all of us for some period of time, and I think we've got some really good progress. Let me give you an update on that particular question that the councilor just asked. What we've decided to do, the mayor actually, after the rail yards market folks had came and visited with the mayor and talked a little bit about their desire that to see if there was a way to expand the opportunities for more vendors to be on the market during the weekends and the times that they are in operation. According to Alaska and the folks that we're talking to the administration, they had lots of folks who are interested in participating in the market, but as we all know, the blacksmith shop itself and if you will, the plaza in between the buildings, just wasn't quite big enough for as many folks as are interested in being in the site. Plus, during the summer months, the heat really gets challenging when people are out there, not just for vendors, but also for patrons going to the market. Anyway, as you all know, the announcement by the governor and the mayor and the city to put in the media academy in the boiler shop is moving well, and I'll give you a report on that. But the point that we decided to work with the market was to look at the buildings that we have that are open, and that if we can create some opportunities for them to expand the market until the construction of this academy starts. So what we did is we opened up the tender repair shop and requested of the market that they have because of the exit issues and the fire requirements, if you will, under our codes. We have to have a fire watch while the market is in operation, just to ensure the safety of everyone that's participating in the market. And so we opened up the tender repair shop for them to utilize that facility, and to, if they need it, to let us know about using the boiler shop, at least to this summer season. It's my understanding from CNM, who is the project manager for the Media Academy, that they plan on beginning construction in the boiler shop sometime in the late fall of this year, maybe October, maybe November timeframe. And so at that point, we're going to have to regroup and look at what's available, mostly because of the staging of the construction and the need for having some room to be able to have the equipment come in and do the work on the boiler shop. But suffice to say that we've given the market the opportunity through the month of August, and actually even the early months of July, August to the end of September, early October, to utilize the tender repair shop and just to maximize the opportunities for folks to vend on the site. Once the construction starts, we'll have to reassess what's available, what buildings can be utilized, and how we might be able to phase that. We anticipate the construction to be probably 24 months, if not a little shorter than that, but so it really is going to have a little more of an impact, probably, through the, the winter months. They sometimes have the Christmas market, and then they do something during the Valentine's Day weekend, and then obviously into the next summer. But I've asked our construction folks to try and limit the staging areas so that we can not impact the market or others who might want to use the facility as best we can. But given the fact that this is a pretty major construction, it may we'll have to reassess what's available for the market and other folks, other users during the course of the construction. So that really, in a nutshell, is where things are as it relates to the market. And best I can tell, the one issue that is, I know, of concern to the neighbors and to us as well, is the whole issue of parking and what we can do to mitigate the impacts of parking on the neighborhood. But we are doing an assessment now on the south side of the, if you will, of the mechanical shop, which is the building the furthest south, the big huge building to the south, about whether or not we can go in there and maybe do an interim parking solution, such as putting some millings and or doing some work there to create opportunities for folks to use that south exit or entrance and use that as a way to park cars, and then create a safety path or a corridor from that side of the buildings over to the north side, so that basically so that we can find a way to park more cars on the site and minimize the impact on the neighborhood. We have to deal with the issue with the state environmental health department because of the contamination on the south side. And so they're doing some assessments now in terms of what issues are there with the soils and what mitigation we might have to do before we can do anything in a real significant way. But rest assured, we understand that there's an impact, and we're just trying to figure out some alternative uses. It just seems to me that yard is so big in the backside that if we could figure out a way to use some of that for parking, it would help alleviate the impacts to the neighborhood as during the times that the market is occurring.
All right, so that contamination on the south side, isn't that just mostly some kind of underground oil tanks or something that were there, if I recall correctly?
Yeah, there's some of that in some areas. There's probably a need for some removal of some surface dirt, if you will, that's, as like we did in the north side. Yeah. So that really is the issue that the environment department wants us to address. The underground storage tanks and or any issues with groundwater, I think we've got a better solution for that. So. But anyway, that's sort of where we are with that. I don't know if you have any questions related to that issue.
Any questions for Lawrence?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is stay again, Garcia. If there was a potential of using that south side for parking, how would that look? How would that parking look like?
Mr. Chairman and Representative Garcia, let me say that that is a question that we're trying to figure out. I don't know if you've been to the site here recently, but we did get the State Historic Preservation Office to give us the opportunity to create an entrance on the south side. So if you can think about where the Wheels Museum is and that big platform that runs along the front of that building all the way down towards the Glorieta Bridge, if you will, we were able to carve a portion of that platform out to create an entrance on that side. So the idea might be, Representative, is to bring cars in on 2nd Street onto the site, and then have them move closer to where around the turntables, if you will, put some paths around the turntable, and have them park closer to the fence line along, if you will, the railroad tracks, and maybe even on the east side, and then along the building on the north side, which is the big mechanical shop. and then create some paths either along the fence line on the east side and or bring them to the west side to connect them to the streetscape that we put in and then have them walk around the big building. The real issue is the big building is that, right, it's smack in the middle of it. And we can't have anybody go through the building because it's not structurally, it's structurally fairly sound, but we can't have folks inside the building. So we're trying to find alternative ways around the two buildings, but Representative, I don't know that give you much of a detail on that. We're still figuring it out, but once we do that, we will certainly send the members of the committee here a rendering, if you will, of what we think that might look like.
Yeah, well, that was helpful. Thank you, Lawrence.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On that parking question, I mean, as the Film Academy comes along, of course, there's construction, parking and so forth during construction, but as that comes along, it makes talking about Second Street, it makes me wonder about that. On one side of Second, it's residential.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to have, to a certain extent, have its parking protected if necessary. You know,
Sure.
I wonder if is there any opportunity for on-street parking to, expand the parking on the side that fronts the on the east side of the street, which is the one that is the frontage of the rail yards.
Chairman, we can certainly look at that. As you can recall, that street it's not super wide. I mean, you could put parking potentially along the east side, but there's also parking on the west side. And I thought we had looked at it and thinking that if we put too much parking along the east side and then the west side are residents that park along the street, that the street might be a little too narrow or two-way traffic, but we can certainly look at that and see if there's some opportunities. And keep in mind that the parking would only be available, obviously for events on the weekends for the market on Sundays typically, but it wouldn't become a permanent sort of fixture of the site. And just to get and to let the group know here, we're working on a staging plan with CNM to try and keep as much of their construction crews, etc., either on the actual property on the south side between the if you will, the Wheels Museum and the turntable area, and they'll be using some of that property that's on the west side of the boiler shop because it's close enough to the buildings to bring the material in, but we want to make sure we minimize the impact on the neighborhood streets during the construction period.
Senator,
Lawrence,
Senator, and then sounds like Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Lawrence. You almost fully answered my question with your last comments, but my concern was if the construction of the academy, the Film Academy, will take up to 2 years. Have you been able to work out a way for that not to essentially block off the market? Is that going to be able to continue? I know it won't be as big as it is now during this brief expansion period, but have you figured out a way to keep it going during the construction period?
And Senator, or Mr. Chairman, Senator, yes, we included in the documents that we're working with now in the awarding of the contract by the CNM to minimize the impact of the weekends, if you will, on the construction. In other words, creating a scenario where during the week when we don't have the market, they can use some of the space on that west side for staging, etc. But on weekends, the market will be open and will be utilizing what they've used before, which is the blacksmith and the plaza, and they'll be required to move as much of their equipment out of the, if you will, area so that we can maximize the use of the facility. That's sort of just to give you all a perspective, the CNM did an RFP, etc., for the contractor. I think that it's public information, at least I'm told, that they've selected Franken Construction to do the work. And so Ed Adams, well, you all know, is our project manager, is working with them on that very issue, Senator, to make sure that we are, when the market's open or when it needs to be open, that we have a maximum amount of space and room for them to do the best they can without, creating such a hardship on the project that it raises the cost of the project itself.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll give you all a plan and certainly have our folks share it with the neighborhood in particular so that they know what to expect during this period.
Franken Construction's a pretty good outfit. They're out of Las Vegas, New Mexico. I used to work with them, but they only worked up north. But now they're, I guess they're one of the big dogs. Jay and then Dorothy.
I was just going to comment earlier about the parking on the street, and I know, Lawrence, you know this, but if the neighbors are comfortable with it, it's always better to have on-street parking because it slows down traffic and it really encourages more people to walk, and even if it is on one side, it's a great traffic calming measure, and or you just have kind of a wider lane for people to speed and get injured.
Yeah, good point, Mr. Chairman. Good point, Jay. We love the idea of just slowing down the traffic through there and ensuring that there's good visibility in the corridor so that we don't have any kind of mishaps. But you're right. That certainly does bring life to the site for sure.
Absolutely, good point, Jay. And a little bit of congestion on a street like that can really slow things down. That's the good aspect of parking and just activity on the street. Dorothy?
Yes, I wanted to actually say that's going to cause some issues with the people that do live on Second because they're already complaining about parking there. I don't know what the solution is. Is that maybe giving them permit parking there only? Because it is causing some inconveniences for the neighborhood. And people have been complaining about that. And as far as, I think really traffic should be coming in off of 4th Street, either through Santa Fe, which has the entrance to the rail yards, as well as construction rather than on 2nd Street. Because that's a bigger corridor and better for that type of traffic coming in and out of the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, look, those are good points too, Dorothy, and that's why we wanted to just look at the width of the street and look at the corridor, because we've heard the same concerns you just brought up from some of the neighbors there, and so trying to be respectful of that, and maybe the plan might be is for us to look at, especially during the construction time, et cetera, to ensure that we've got the right corridors for the contractors and others using the site to bring them in down that Santa Fe Street and 4th, as opposed to trying to use 2nd as a way to get into the site.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think we've always recognized, Dorothy, that neighborhood parking permit thing is a tool, and I've had a few personally go rounds with that, and Lawrence has been involved in that too, in the North Valley and near the Bosque, and it's a double-edged sword, right? It needs to be used judiciously for people who really need it, and it shouldn't be overused, which is what happened in the North Valley, where they just said, "Oh, this whole entire area is residents only." Well, no, it's a public street. Some people need to get to the Bosque, right? So this is a similar thing where it needs to be used wisely, but it is a tool that sometimes we have to go ahead and go towards it. Any other discussion or questions for Lawrence? We did get.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I kind of a follow-up question based on the discussion that we're having with the board members, but has the city looked at purchasing that old A&P bar property, kind of making it a component part of the rail yards? Lawrence, what's the view on that? That big vacant lot of the old A&P bar.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
First of all, Representative, it's interesting you should mention that, because I often find myself just going down there and just taking some look and see about how things are going, because obviously it's a big project. That particular lot is, we actually had conversations very informally about whether or not that might be an opportunity to do something with that and sort of make it part of the site. But to be straight up with you, we've not made a decision on that necessarily. I don't know. There might be some land use issues going on with that right now. If I'm not mistaken, maybe Councilor Benton has more updates than I or even Dorothy, but we hadn't really gone as far as looking at purchasing it, a representative. But certainly, welcome any thoughts and ideas about what people might want to do with that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'll let Petra speak just a minute, but
Sorry,
a little bit of history on that is that the neighborhood requested years ago that site be purchased.
Mhm.
And it was purchased by Chad Rennick, Palindrome. And so that's who owns it now.
Mhm.
But Patrick can kind of give a brief update on what's going on with that.
Yes, as Council Benton mentioned, the site is owned by Chad Rennicker, and I believe the development company is called Palindrome. The site actually is coming up. There's a zone change requested associated with this, and there's an appeal pending on this. It'll actually be before council in the very near future. I think it's going to be before council either late August, early September. So we probably shouldn't talk about this too much more as a board, because Councilor Benton is councilor. And so in order to ensure that he's able to be part of the council and discuss that as an appeal, he'd either have to completely step off this call for the board to continue the conversation, or for maybe this conversation to end. So didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but that was one where I wanted to make sure we didn't go down a slippery slope.
Yeah, I'm always being reminded of this, and we're a little bit constrained on some of these things, as you all may know. But yeah, without talking about any details of what the development plan is, that's the status.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, is this like an ex parte kind of rule that you kind of fall into? Yeah, okay. The other question I had for Lawrence, if we're serious about parking on the south side, we need to have a plan to develop a corridor of moving that those individuals park in that south end, instead of moving them through the street and going up the street, is kind of create a corridor. And it could be like a fence type corridor where it's enclosed and people can't wander onto the major structure there, of the repair shop, or wander off onto the railroad tracks.
Mhm.
But have that corridor connect straight to those structures on the north end.
Mhm.
And I think that should be part of the planning that's going into the issue with opening up parking on the south end.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Garcia, you're spot on. That's exactly right. And that's what they're looking at right now. There's some room between the fence on the east side of all the buildings and that we're looking at whether or not we could create that corridor you're talking about on the, if you will. So there would be a corridor on the east side where folks could walk and then connect over to where the blacksmith shop connects to the, to the transfer table. And then that would be a way to get them to that side, and then do the same thing on the west side along the street there, but not on the street, but on that, so that people can walk around all the buildings in a corridor that's safe and it's not within a building. So that's exactly what we're doing now, Representative. And as soon as we get that figured out and what we can do, one of the challenges that we have, as you all can appreciate this, is almost everything we do on that site, we have to run it by the State Historic Preservation Officer, because these buildings are all and the corridors are all governed by the rules of the State Historic Preservation Office. So we're working with them now. So yeah, as soon as we identify those, again, we'll also let you all know what those look like. But that's exactly what we're trying to do, Representative.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I had.
Okay. Let's see, I think we had Jay next and then Dorothy.
I'm good. If I had my hand up, it was old, so let me take that down. I apologize.
Dorothy, did you have something else?
No, I was just gonna comment on the project, but I mean, on the site of where the AMP is, but
Yeah, better to-
we can't, so I won't go into further detail.
Thank you. I certainly do want to be able to participate in any discussion that comes up on that. So appreciate everyone's understanding. All right, we did get we've got a little bit of time left. If the board is interested, we had Alaska from the Rail Yards Market did send a newsletter to the board members and said she can provide an update on the market if you would like. And then also John Roberts from the 2926 locomotive, which if you didn't see it, when they steamed that thing up and it actually went under its own power from their shop on the Sawmill Spur over to 4th Street, it was really something to behold. But I'll leave that up to the board if you'd like to have information from either of those two entities. Yes, okay. All right, let's hear from Alaska. Let's let Alaska in. And Alaska, if you can, try to keep it to around 5 minutes. We need to leave a little time for questions and then go. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, esteemed RYAB members. I did send out a newsletter and I'm just available for any questions related to market operations, anything at all.
Any questions for Alaska? I haven't read the newsletter, I admit it, but I will now that you mention it. Senator Ortiz-Pino, you're muted.
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman, for Alaska. Lawrence earlier mentioned that the city and you had worked out a way for this brief period before construction starts for the expansion of the market, adding additional vendors, but then there'll have to be a constriction again. And that I can see creating some additional tension for you. Have you figured out how you're going to be able to handle all of that, adding people and then having to remove them? Do they understand it's just for a couple of months?
Mr. Chair, Senator Ortiz-Pino, thankfully, we have worked very closely with our partners in cultural services and in the mayor's office to communicate this as an interim expansion. We've coined the expansion of the new building, the Growers Grove, and have intentionally placed growers of raw produce and community partners like Working Classroom to do a kids zone and music and some other fun activities, free activities for families. But we have been very clear that this is an interim use. We are very thrilled and thankful for this interim use, as the new plaza is beautiful, but lacks shade. And this has been a record heat summer. So it has just been a blessing to allow the growers to at least temporarily use some indoor space and be able to activate some more shade for our neighbors and community to come visit. So we recognize that our organization as a nonprofit has to be extremely nimble and flexible with other tenants and potential projects and construction. And we're just thrilled to be on the site working with our community partners, city and neighbors. So yeah, we recognize that there's going to be a lot of changes in the next couple months and couple years. But we're just grateful for all the city's support and our state representatives and neighborhood representative support to be able to activate any space at all. So thank you. It's really made an impact. We had 4,000 people visit the tender repair shop for pretty much the first time last weekend. We have typically 3,000 to 5,000 people enter the blacksmith shop a week at the regular market. And for the holiday market, I think is when we're going to be talking with Mr. Real and our partners in cultural services to really tackle how we're going to work with that impact, as the holiday market is heavily attended. More than 10,000 people a day attend that event. So we're looking forward to more discussions and just really grateful.
Thank you.
We'll ask
Chair,
Yeah.
I have a question for Laska. Laska, how was that issue? You came to a couple of us this last session regarding the feasibility study, and actually it was shown that that we couldn't use capital money, I guess because of the anti-donation issue. But how is that progressing in terms of that feasibility study that you were kind of initiating, and you had kind of, your group had kind of put up some funding to kind of offset the cost, so it just wasn't entirely up to the legislature to fund. But how is that moving forward in terms of the essence of the feasibility study, in terms of looking at the entity that's running the rail yards right now, and the feasibility of using that space in the boiler shop for year-round activities, and also kind of being a partner in the rail yards overall development plan of basically utilizing that space, you know, for the management of the rail yards market. So how is that coming along?
Mr. Chair, Representative Garcia, I am happy to announce that we did commence work or initiate work on the feasibility study contract. It is a contract with UNM's Bureau of Business and Economic Research, and we initiated that contract in the fiscal year 2023 with some city support. And we did go after capital outlay funds to fill a gap. We weren't able to get those capital outlay funds because of some specific rules about those, which we were disappointed in, but our board thankfully strategically has been talking about expanding the farmers market operations and looking into a permanent home for the farmers market that's year round for many years. So strategically, we have been able to save up our own funds to get that contract going. So the majority of the funds came from our nonprofit budget, and there was a small portion that we used from city funds that we received in fiscal 2023 for capacity building, and specifically contracting an outside firm to look into these larger issues. We do have, we have spoken with Mr. Molina about bringing the consultants to the December RYAB meeting and providing an update on that feasibility study contract. It may not be fully done by the December meeting, but the consultants are doing a lot of groundwork, including an economic impact analysis that's passed looking at the market past and kind of what type of economic impact the vendors and organization have made there. And they're also studying several different scenarios of potentially developing a year-round marketplace.
Thank you, Alaska. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, we probably maybe have time for one more question if anyone has one for Alaska, and then we need to wrap up the meeting here. Anyone else? Let's hear from John. Let's bring in John from the 2926. Give us a quick update on the locomotive. Thank you, Alaska.
Sorry, just a bit of delay there while things switched over. Hello and welcome. Let me see. I have a video. Can I start video? Chairman Benton, members of the board, thank you very much. Mr. Ayal, thanks for a couple of minutes. Based on the conversation about the parking on the south side of the rail yards today, is it possible that our organization could be involved in that? I ask because I don't want us to get in each other's way. We do have some construction plans on the turntable that we're restoring, and I want to make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes. So if that's a possibility, please let me know.
No, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Roberts, no problem. We will make sure that we stay in touch with you all for sure.
All right, much appreciated. The only other update I've got, we have a couple of outings planned. We have another return trip to Tractor coming up on August 26th. So it'll be part two. It's the exact same trip, but more excitement, more people. That's what we're hoping for. And we've got notionally planned a rail safety event at the end of September. We're working through the various agencies to figure out exactly where that is. It is notionally planned for the last weekend in September, though, the 30th, I believe. So just want to give everybody an update. Work on the turntables progressing. That's about what I've got. Any questions, please?
John, what date did you say you're going to steam it up and go over to Tractor again?
Tractor is August 26th.
I will be there. And Nathan, make a note of that. We're probably going to publicize that a little bit for you, John.
I'd appreciate it. We had a nice turnout last time. If we get more people this time, even better. You know,
it's a super, the accomplishment is just unbelievable. What you've done with that thing. It's just fantastic. So,
yeah.
All right. I'm sure everyone on the board here is happily supportive of you. So
thank you.
We are at the end of our time. I want to remind everybody that our next meeting is scheduled for December 6th. At that time, you will have a new city councilor for District 2. And I will be an ex officio member. So I think I'm going to be allowed to at least have a word now and then about the rail yards. But we will, as was stated, hear about the developments on that date. But put that down, December 6th, 8:30 a.m. Senator T.C. Pino.
Yeah, just quickly, Mr. Chairman, at the end of next year, 2024, not only does my term end and I retire, but the district changes and it'll be District 13. And if he wins re-election, it would be Senator Bill O'Neill that would have the Barelas neighborhood and the rail yards as part of his district. So he would probably be stepping on, I guess. I don't know if there's a need to do anything in terms of describing that in the membership or whatever. But until then, a year and 2/3, I'm still around.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Appreciate you sticking around, Senator, for that. And yeah, we did. I'll get to you in just a second, Rick. We did account for that in this update of the board legislation. So that will be reflected that, you know, upon the event of the next election, then it will change. Representative Mura.
Thank you, Councilor. Just going to be real brief on that. It looks like I'm going to have a couple of other ex-official members joining me on the meeting. That would be nice. But I just thought I'd let you know, maybe some people didn't know that I'm now counselor for the village council in Corrales. So I was elected, and so we're just as interested in what's going on, even though I was lived in the district for 69 years, but Corrales is very interested in what's going on, and that's why I'm still interested in what's going on as well. Thank
Hey,
you.
well, I can't believe that I either heard that and forgot, or that I didn't hear that, but I'm excited for you to be on the Corrales Village Council. I did a lot of work for the village over the years, mostly with the library. And it's always been a pleasure working with the village of Corrales. Bueno, everyone,
Mr. Chairman?
have a wonderful day. Thanks for your participation, and hopefully we'll see you before December 6th, but if not, we'll see you then. Take care, everyone. Buenas tardes.